He stood only 5 feet 1 inch tall, but his fists carried the weight of giants. In the shadows of boxing history, few names burn with the raw intensity of Barbados Joe Walcott. A man small in stature, yet enormous in courage. A fighter who, with short and devastating punches, carved his path in a sport dominated by bigger, taller, and wealthier men. Walcott was no ordinary hero. He was not protected by powerful managers, nor favored by referees. His glory was forged through pain, blood, and sheer willpower. Every fight was a war. Every victory, a scar. The public knew him as the Barbados Demon, a nickname that reflected the ferocity with which he stormed his opponents, fearless, relentless, as if danger itself was his fuel. This is the story of Barbados Joe Walcott. Born on March 31, 1873, on the island of Barbados, Joe Walcott grew up in the hardships of colonial life. The son of a poor family, he knew early the weight of labor and the limitations that fate seemed to impose. But inside him lived a restless spirit, a refusal to accept the place the world had assigned him. As a teenager, he left his homeland and migrated to the United States in search of opportunity. He worked in ports and factories, living on the margins of American society, where Caribbean immigrants faced suspicion and prejudice. It was in this world of daily struggle that Walcott discovered boxing. In smoke-filled halls and improvised rings, he found not just a way to survive, but a battlefield where his fury could be transformed into a weapon. Too small to intimidate by presence, Walcott impressed with the impact of his blows. His short, compact punches landed with the weight of hammers. Soon, his name spread among the men who organized underground fights. Walcott's entry into the professional scene was marked by skepticism. Many looked at his short, stocky body and thought he was easy prey for taller fighters. But inside the ropes, he silenced them with violence. His rise was swift. He fought and beat respected names such as Mysterious Billy Smith, a seasoned champion who quickly learned that underestimating Walcott was a fatal mistake. His ability to absorb punishment and return it double made him a rare spectacle. In little time, the Barbados Demon was known not only among fans but also among fighters themselves, who stopped seeing him as an underdog and began fearing him as a real threat. The combination of power, courage, and near-superhuman toughness was pushing him closer to a world title shot. The decisive moment came on December 29, 1901, in New York. Walcott faced James "Rube" Ferns, the reigning welterweight champion. Ferns was taller, more technical, and many believed he would win with ease. But Walcott brought his signature fury into the ring. From the opening rounds, it was clear Ferns had no answer for the relentless pressure. Walcott kept closing the distance, hammering the champion's body and head with short, brutal punches. By the 5th round, Ferns was broken. Walcott unleashed a devastating barrage and seized the world title. The crowd watched in disbelief. A poor immigrant from Barbados had become champion of the world. And not just any champion, but one of the fiercest ever seen in the division. After claiming the crown, Joe Walcott became one of the most feared men in boxing. His reign was not marked by easy defenses, but by bloody wars against dangerous opponents. He faced Dixie Kid, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, Honey Melody, and even larger men like Joe Choinsky, who carried clear advantages in size and reach. Against Dixie Kid, Walcott fought with his usual ferocity, but the bout ended in controversy. A punch after the bell cost him the fight, yet the decision was so questionable that many still call it an outright robbery. Even when the justice of the ring was denied, Walcott stood as a symbol of defiance. His clashes with Philadelphia Jack O'Brien became unforgettable battles of contrast, O'Brien's refined, elegant technique against Walcott's relentless brutality. No matter how many cuts opened on his face, no matter how many knockdowns he suffered, Walcott always rose, spitting blood and charging forward. With every fight, the legend of the Barbados Demon grew. Fans knew that when Walcott stepped into the ring, they weren't guaranteed beauty or finesse, but they were guaranteed a war. As the years wore on, Walcott's body began to pay the price of his endless wars. In 1904, he lost the title to Dixie Kid in a fight clouded by controversy, with the referee halting the contest under dubious circumstances. To many, Walcott remained the true champion, but officially, the crown was gone. From then on, his career faltered. He continued facing dangerous opponents, but defeats came more often. His aggression remained, but his speed was fading. In 1906, he lost to Honey Melody, and little by little, the flame that once ignited arenas began to die out. Outside the ring, his problems grew. The money he had earned in great nights quickly disappeared, whether through gambling or careless living. The same man who once drew roaring crowds now wandered the streets looking for new opportunities, often fighting just to put food on the table. The Barbados Demon was still respected, but he was no longer feared. And for a warrior who had lived as a storm, becoming just another faded fighter was a defeat more painful than any knockout. After hanging up the gloves, Joe Walcott tried to live away from the ring, but he could never escape boxing's shadow. Without savings and stripped of his former glory, he survived doing odd jobs and relying on the kindness of a few friends from the sport. The man once called the Barbados Demon, the world welterweight champion, now bore the weight of invisibility. He walked the streets as a forgotten veteran, while new generations of fighters claimed the spotlight he had helped create. On October 1, 1935, in Massachusetts, Walcott met a tragic end. He was struck by an automobile and died at 62 years old. There was no belt in his hands, no roaring crowd to cheer him. But to those who knew his story, his death could not erase his legend. Just as he had lived, he departed abruptly, like a lightning bolt cutting through a storm. A cruel fate for a man who had turned pain into a weapon, and who, even defeated by time, never ceased to be a warrior. Joe Walcott was not just a champion, he was a pioneer. A man who, at only 5 feet 1 inch, proved to the world that courage, discipline, and ferocity could overcome any barrier. The first black Caribbean to win a world title, he opened the way for generations of fighters who came after him, including Jersey Joe Walcott, who chose the name in tribute to the Barbados Demon. Today, whenever a short, underestimated, or impoverished fighter raises his fists to challenge the impossible, the spirit of Joe Walcott lives on. His life shows that it is not always the biggest who triumph, but those with the most indomitable soul. In boxing history, many champions have been forgotten. But when the conversation is about heart, resilience, and raw brutality turned into art, the name of Barbados Joe Walcott still echoes like distant thunder, reminding us that even the smallest man can carry within him the strength of a giant. This was the story of Barbados Joe Walcott.